This week on Hashknife Hangouts, we discuss the top 10 cattle breeds that you can find throughout the United States. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. My co-host with me is my father, Brandon. If this is your first time seeing us, like, comment, and subscribe, please. We continue to grow every day, and we support every single one of you. Thank you very much. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the respective handles below. Now, to today's opening notes. If you don't know, I give opening notes because Dad likes to talk a lot, and typically I just throw it to him, and then it's a whole lot of yes, uh-huhs, and yips from me. So there are over 70 recognized cattle breeds in the United States, if you didn't know, but apparently less than 20 make up the majority of the genetics used for commercial beef production. If you don't know us yet, hopefully you will. We produce beef and horses for the United States. If you're into horses, Tennessee Walkers or gated. If it's beef, Red Angus. May or may not be shifting. Look at some of our past episodes and you might get an understanding of what's going on. But today, we will count down the top 5 most popular U.S. cattle breeds according to the United States Cattlemen's Beef Board. But before those top 5, we will also discuss the bonus 5 breeds that we are also well known for across the United States. Where did I get all this information? I will throw a link below for the Ag Daily. Agriculture Daily is what its long-term name is, but Ag Daily. It's a website that, like Dad likes to say, I go to daily to get some ag information, topics that we oftentimes discuss on this platform. But Ag Daily had a top 10 list, again, top 5 within the United States with the additional bonus 5. So what we will do today is go from rank number 10 all the way to number 1. But before we get that, Dad rarely looks at the notes or knows what I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to throw out there, because he's shaking his head and he's saying that he hasn't seen today's notes. What do you think is the number 1 beef production breed in the United States before we even get there?
Oh, it's got to be Black Angus.
Okay, we'll find out. All right, number 10.
Well, yeah, okay, I'll stick with that.
You're gonna stick with that? What would be your runner-up, honorable mention? What's that one?
Well, because you said beef, not dairy. Otherwise, it'd be Holstein.
This is all beef. This is all beef production.
Yeah. My guess is Black Angus.
Okay. What would be your number 2 if you had to give a second one?
Oh God. Simmental.
Okay.
Or Red Angus.
Okay. So those are your top 3. Number 1 beef, or number 1 black, but you'll say a tie for 2 with either Simmental or Red Angus.
Or Gelbvieh. That'd be right up there too. Those are
let's hedge our bets a little more.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't get this wealthy by not hedging bets, let me tell you.
Yeah, you started off with a $10 million cattle ranch and you ended with $1 million. So here we are.
That's ranching. That's right.
Okay. All right.
I think the joke is, how do you make $1 million in ranching? You start with a $20 million ranch.
There you go.
That's the joke.
All right. Number 10. Any guess? Any particular? Again, beef production. Number 10 coming in for the United States. I don't know what the world is, but United States. What do you think it is?
Number 10?
Yeah.
Oh, Charlet.
No, it's Highlands. Apparently, I didn't
really
know. Yeah, those things are
so
cute.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing more and more of them.
And let me see if I can actually, because I did prepare for today, and I forgot that I did. But here you go. And here's what I will do is I will actually share the screen for a moment, and it is the Highlands. If you are curious of what Highlands are, it's these pretty little creatures right
Scottish.
Here. Yeah,
Scottish.
they're very long-haired. They look very docile, frankly. Apparently they are very friendly. You can pet them just like a freaking dog.
Look at the little one down here in the lower right corner.
This one right here.
No, the one, that one too. But look at that one. Look at the tongue sticking out. That is something your mother would do. Kitty.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that is what a Highland looks like. So I'll stop sharing real quick. And I will go to the notes.
I actually know somebody who raises them. And she does well with them, believe it or not.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Kate Souza. It's
Oh,
Lazy Souza Ranch
I
over,
did not know that.
yeah, by a little bit north of Missoula. And she does well with them and has a contract with somebody, and they just pay her a flat fee per head. And it's like, are you kidding me? That's phenomenal. I mean, she told me what she's doing with it. I said, keep doing it, girl.
Is it for beef production or just breeding and like
He's got
genetics?
a little bit different deal where I think he's got kind of a, it's not a petting zoo because it's the numbers that they're running, but kind of a novelty
In there.
thing with
Okay.
tourists or guest people. And then I think they go in for beef production after that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, number 10,
Great
Highlands.
niche. Great way to do it.
Their description is with longhorns and a double coat. This is coming again directly out of Ag Daily, and that will be the majority of the summaries that I provide today. Highlands require little in the way of shelter, feed, supplements, or expensive grains to achieve and maintain good condition and fitness. Cold weather and snow have little effect on them. They have been raised as far north as Alaska and the Scandinavian countries. They also adapt well to the more southerly climates with successful herds as far as Texas and Georgia. Long lashes and forelocks shield their eyes from flying insects, and as a result, pink eye and cancer eye are very uncommon. Highland beef is meat that is lean, while marbled and flavored with little outside waste fat. So with that, that's your Highland beef production. What do you have anything to give with that number 10 right there?
Not real, other than I understand they're very, like you said, you already covered it, very docile. And your mother loves them. I know
I do.
she's
Too.
going to want to have
If I
one.
had a pet one, I'd be happy for it.
Don't raise them for pets. You can't do that.
You
We already got a problem with ears.
Yeah. a problem. Yeah, a problem it is. With that, we will go to number 9. Let me make sure I got it all set up. Yep, picture is set. And number 9, do you have a guess for it?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm probably wrong on all of them.
It's this one.
I'll be dang, limousine.
Yeah. A little more bulkier, at least particularly in the bull. You'll see a little more muscled. They actually look more like the actual cow itself. They almost look more feminine than what we have.
The bulls do, yeah.
But again, the meat and everything, yeah,
it almost looks like there's double muscling, and I don't know whether the limousine is known for that.
Yeah,
like Piedmontese is. I think they may have some genetics that way. That bull that you're running your cursor over, that guy almost looks like he's got double muscling, especially at the shoulders, and look at the hind end.
I mean, look at this one
round
too.
yeah
Down here.
That looks like, and I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. It just looks like it. A
and
cow on the left.
This guy looks like one of our bulls, actually.
He kind of does. He's kind of a specimen. Long back. I mean, look at the length on some of these cattle. Look at they just got really good length.
Now that you're saying that, I'm looking at all their backs. All of them look long.
Yeah, and look at the cow where your cursor's at above. Look at her hind end. The one above.
Oh, right here.
Look at that hind end. That almost looks like double muscling as well.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, that's limousine, and let me throw out their information. Coming in at number 9 is limousine. The
French
golden red breed are native to the south central part of France in the regions of Limousin and Marche. It's March with an E if you're American. From the Marche.
I speak
maybe
French.
Sure. From the initial U.S. concentrations in Oklahoma, Texas, and South Dakota, the Limousin breed has expanded across North America. Today, there are more than 1 million registered head here. The tremendous carcass traits of the breed have attracted the full attention of the entire beef industry. So with that, again, number 9 coming in for beef production with Limousin.
Doesn't say anything about double muscling though. Just carcass traits.
It didn't. No, just yeah. And again, I mean that's what we're talking about here is beef production. And like you pointed out, holy long backs, and that's where you get your ribs and all that extra tenderloin.
Lots of steaks out of there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
well, and carcass traits also, so they must have good marbling to be able to finish. So they're tender, juicy.
Well, maybe that's it, because they look they almost look like a specimen bodybuilder to the extent where there's not a lot of marbling there. Maybe that's what brings them so low in the top 10 is that there's just not a lot of marbling to bring out that flavor. There's a lot of meat, but just not a lot of flavor.
Well, and typically those double muscled breeds like that, and I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it looks like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
We're just all supposing here, really.
Right.
I just wanted to
From that,
bring the top 10 cattle and let's
yeah.
talk about it. Yeah.
But that's part of the trait is you get a lot of meat and it's lean meat. It's for those who like typically like grass fat cattle where you're not putting a finish on them. They're lean, but also have good taste to them. So that may be. I've not known that a steak that was stuck in front of me and they said, "Hey, here's some limousine." Never had that. Never had that happen. Could have, but I doubt it.
Well, and we've talked about this before too, is when people go to a store or not a store, but a restaurant and they see, cattle, what do they normally think of when they think cattle? And you already said your number one, which is Black Angus. And
Well,
I think part of that's the silhouette that's provided, and people
Yes.
think, oh, black cow, but you know,
Well, what it is, it's certified Angus. Most of the time you say
Yeah.
certified Angus.
Yeah.
So to be black, it's just has to be the number one is what a predominantly black hide.
All right, moving on to number 8, and I'll put the timestamp on real quick. You already said this breed, so I'll hint with that one. Number 8. What do you think this one is?
Probably Gelby.
Oh, you're close. It's Holstein.
Okay, so it's the veal industry probably for that
Yeah.
because you're talking dairy cattle versus beef cattle.
Yeah. And here's where I will share the screen again real quick. Here's your Holstein. If you think of a Chick-fil-A cow or a dairy cow,
That's right.
this is it. This is your Holstein cow.
Yeah. Magpie on hooves.
I have never really thought of them, honestly, as being a real beef producer. Milk, yeah. But beef, I've never really thought of them as being in the top 10, let alone top 8.
Well, and I think the thing you're talking about with beef, or I am, when I think of a Holstein beef, I'm not talking the cows. Those are milk producers because they have such massive amounts of milk that milk is weighed by the pound, not by the gallon, and it's how many pounds of milk that a milk cow can produce. But look at the bag on this one on the second in the middle row. Look how large that udder is. I mean, they're known for these huge, massive milk production machines is what they are. But, it takes females to make milk. And so how many males produce milk? Zip. And I worked with a guy once. He was from that Wisconsin area. And we were just talking about cattle one day. And I said, "Hey, what do you do with your Holstein steers?" And I had an idea, right? And I said, "So what is it you do?" Because I figure, they're going to be used in the veal trade, or they'll be fattened and butchered at a low birth weight, or not birth weight, but a low weight, under 500 pounds probably. And he says, "I don't know." And he'd come from dairy country, and his dad, and I was like, but he was an engineer, went to school, and he says, "I don't know." So he texts his dad, and he starts laughing, and the response back was, "What do you do with their Holstein steers?" His dad writes back, "Go broke." So, yeah, there's not much production out of them. So
I mean, looking at what they had there, and granted, some of them are, people are looking like, why are you looking down? Listen, man, I'm a one-man production show and I'm trying to be efficient here.
Trying to make himself sound better.
Yeah, well, that too. How do you? Okay, there you go. Sorry, can't spell today. But I think I'm looking at those cows, and they are show cattle, and you have to keep that in perspective. But man, they look really ribby and thin, and it's like it's hard for me to think, looking at that they can really. Great. I think all of those. Let me double check real quick. Those all look like they're probably cows, not steers. Oh, I think there's one steer, but even that one steer, they just look thin, and maybe that's a younger steer. But when I see that body type, there's not a lot of poundage put on, muscle put on. Whereas we looked at the limousine, and wow, you want to talk about some meat? They just look more like sticks, and the frail little teenage boy that you look at, and you're like, why would you want to get any meat off of that?
Well, but what you're not seeing is the perspective there. Holstein are very large boned cattle.
Oh, okay.
They get big, right? I mean, you've seen some Holstein steers. Well,
Yeah.
a neighbor has a Holstein steer that is a monster, and that's what they are. They're large boned, large framed cattle, so they're gonna look thin like that, and they're not thin. I mean, that's partly is their body build, and they're milk producers. Again, that's what their emphasis is. They're not about putting on a lot of necessarily muscle weight for slaughter production.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just, have a steer or have a little bull calf and go, oh, okay, well, man, you're free, I'm free. Go do something and have a nice life. I mean, that's not realistic. You got to put them into some kind of production, and veal is the top one for there. And I'm all right with veal as long as it's done ethically, and animals happy, followed by a quick and humane death. I'm okay. I mean, I've not eaten much veal, but
Yeah. Well, and we're
Right.
actually going through this top 10 pretty quick. So let's
Yeah.
stop there for a second. You're talking veal and ethical. Expand on that a little bit, because people, people from the far side is what I'll say. Those who are not in agreement with us because we are cattle producers,
or eating meat at all of any kind.
or eating meat at all. They would say,
Right.
like, that's wrong in general. But what are you talking about specifically in terms of ethicalness? Because we always talk about, hey, we want that animal to have the best life possible up until the absolute last second where suddenly they don't feel anything at all. So
Right.
what are you talking about specifically in terms of the ethical harvesting, is what I should probably say, of veal?
Well, and I think it isn't necessarily the harvesting; it's about the production of it.
Okay.
And my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, true veal is unborn calf.
Well, let's look. I got a Google machine right here, so let's find out
Well,
for
and
you.
you know what? I don't trust anything I don't trust anything I read or see anymore. I don't even trust half the stuff I do. So, but veal. Go
So
ahead.
quick Google says, you just put in definition of true veal. Let's start there. It says there's 11,000 or 11.4 million results, and the very first thing coming out of it looks like sentientmedia.org is veal is meat from calves, normally between 6 and 8 months old, but sometimes far younger. It doesn't determine what that far younger is.
Is that sentient meat? What's the address on that?
Sentient media.
I'll bet you sentient is sentient like thinking media. I don't know.
I don't know.
How do you pronounce that? Anyway, sorry.
And here's another quick.
Again, I'm looking at
Wikipedia.
Source.
It says
That's a good source.
I mean, yeah, I'm just throwing stuff out there so
I
people
know,
at
I
least
know.
know where it's coming
I
from,
know.
because that's the first two things they're going to look at.
Mhm.
Veal is meat of calves in contrast to the beef from older cattle. Veal can be produced from from a calf of either sex in any breed. However, most veal comes from young male calves of dairy breeds, which would make sense with the Holstein, which are not used for breeding. Generally, veal is more expensive per pound than beef from older cattle. Veal production is a way to add value to dairy bull calves and to utilize whey solids, a byproduct from the manufacturing stage. That's actually interesting, because Wikipedia, if anybody doesn't know, Wikipedia, you can't use it as a reliable source, but it typically is pretty reliable because anybody can update it and provide the most up-to-date information. And it does get checked, just not necessarily quick enough to catch all the minute discrepancies. Believe it or not, I would take that. And then it makes sense too, because we're talking about Holsteins being, again, a veal production potentially, because you go broke with steers. So
Right. Well, and my point to that was, I think true veal is unborn.
And everything, quick search says that's not the case. It says 6 to 8 months, but okay, I'll take it. I don't know where that's coming from, but
I think that's the original. What was.
And when was
100 years ago?
100 years.
Well,
okay.
When you're or longer, when you butcher or slaughter an animal that you don't know has a unborn offspring,
Oh,
what are you gonna do
okay.
with that? And
Yeah.
I think that's where that came from. And it could have been even longer ago than that. I don't know the origin of veal. However,
Almost like you're
now,
hunting and you shoot a cow,
right,
elk, or a doe deer, and you find a fetus in there, and you're like, oh, there's another body.
right. Of course,
Okay.
you've seen that happen. I did, especially days when I was a game warden. People talking about, hey, we just thing it was pretty cool because it had this tiny little, fetus growing. They didn't know it, and
Yeah.
which is only a couple of months old because of the breeding season. But when you do this with a slaughter animal, you could slaughter that at any time. You may not know it's exposed and have a larger, some of these cows don't even look like they're fat, ours, and they're going to calve and they're going to have a 75-pound calf. So
Yeah.
that's possible that's where that came from. I don't think that, and that's where the ethics come in. I don't think that's done anymore, not that I know of anyway.
So how would they get that? Would they just slaughter the cow, or would they actually enter the
Yeah.
cow, remove the fetus, and
No,
then butcher?
it's all through
Okay.
slaughter. What?
Okay.
Yeah, what the expense to doing that is crazy. I mean, then
So
you'd have
what's
to
the
care for that
ethical
cattle later.
issue with that, I guess? Because you're looking at the cow, you're breeding it at a potential timeline, and then saying, hey, I'm gonna get, like we talked about actually earlier today, because we filmed a shoot episode of cows and sheep. To you can get multiple crops. Cows, you can get the calf and other things like that, but then the sheep, you get the wool and the the lambs. Thank you. The lambs that are come off of it. So that's multiple crops. How, I guess, here's my question is, what's the ethical issue in understanding, okay, I can breed this cow at this particular time, butcher it at another particular time, and get, in a sense, two crops out of it. I can get a veal crop, and I can get the actual beef production crop off of this cow. Let's say it's a young cow, 3 years old.
Yeah, if you had a 3-year-old cow and you're doing that, and for some reason she's, not producing the milk, again, I think you're going to go broke doing that because the size of the calf you're going to get, you might get a 100-pound dairy calf because they're larger, they're big calves, but there's not much meat on a young calf. And if you're doing that for maximizing just before, somebody would butcher for that purpose, I mean, I think there's some ethics involved with that where you're killing an unborn calf for meat production. And to hold that cow and breed her for that specific reason, I don't think that's going to pencil out for you because you're going to have more into feed costs to grow that calf internally and that cow than you would that if you went ahead and raised the calf up to, say, 500 pounds, and then now you've got a 500-pound calf that is still veal, and it's not been in a production. We sell our calves, but they don't go straight to a slaughter. They go to a backgrounder or somebody like that who's going to put some more weight on them. So the older they get, the tougher they get. Where when they're young like that and they're just fed a grain or like a finish type meal, and some of them, these are bottle calves. Let's face it. Some of these steers are put in and they're given a bottle formula because the cow is now into milk production. So there are some ethics around that, and I think live animals for slaughter is a whole lot more palatable to people than unborn cattle for slaughter. So I think that was incidental, is probably how that started in my mind. That true veal or unborn calf was something that was like, oh wow, we got a calf here. What are we gonna do with this? And somebody said, you know what? It's like a small hog. Let's roast it or whatever. You know what I mean? And found out how tender that is. Not a lot of meat on it, but they were utilizing it. That's just my idea that probably happened. It was just more of a utilization because it's like, oh crap, look what we got here.
Interesting.
I
Yeah,
don't know what the first guys did. I don't know what they were thinking.
I think that would be a that's an interesting conversation that we could potentially have for longer, because there's a lot of questions I have on that one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we're not dairy
No.
producers. We're
Well,
beef.
and it goes into ethics, which ethics is a
Right.
whole nother thing. But all right,
Right.
number seven, about to say 8. Number 7. You've said it before, also on this one. What do you think it is?
I'm gonna hit Gelbvieh at some
All
point.
right, there you go. Yeah, I was like, oh, you were close last time.
Stick with it.
Here's what it is. It's a little red, maybe a little lighter. Also, looking at these guys, they look very similar to our beloved red Angus, except for the couple darkies in here.
We've got some dark ones though. Look at the one up on the top line, number 2. That's a very typical look of our bulls. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Or this one. We've had ones that look like this too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Man.
Long back. But if you look into most of our registered breeders, they're using Gelbvieh a lot for heterosis in our reds.
For that crossbreeding. Yep.
Okay. You'd bet. Yep. And you can see why, look at that cow on the top line with the calf. If that's not a feminine face on a red cow, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I mean, they all look good. Let's see if we can pull it. Yeah, these guys. I mean, this could be straight out of Eastern Montana right here.
Well, look at that Northern Ag Network or Northern Ag Net .net. That might be the Northern Ag Network right there in Billings. I don't know.
Man, I mean,
could be.
These are good looking cows. I'll tell you that.
Good looking cattle there. Yeah. Look at the dappling on the one below that.
This one.
You don't see that very often, but yeah. But look at the variety in the coloration of some of these cows. Yeah. The very first one up on the upper left, that almost looks like a dairy cow.
Yeah. And then, you got the dark sorrel red to kind of a light to what we are used to, this type of red. And then all the way over here, 1, 2, and over here, 3, just dark black. I mean, they're all beautiful, good looking animals.
Look at the one next to him too. You've almost got like a Gruyere color.
Yeah. Well, let me, I'll stop sharing real quick and I will tell you that at number 7, Gelbvieh, a European breed introduced to the United States through artificial insemination, believe it or not. The Gelbvieh breed is red in color with strong skin pigmentation and horned. Polled cattle have developed in the United States from the use of naturally hornless foundation females. Fans of the breed claim the breed has superior fertility, calving ease, mothering ability, and a growth rate of the calves. So that's kind of the stuff that we look at is fertility, calving ease, because we're all about calving ease. That's part of the reason why we hold back heifers for as long as we do. Mothering ability, is it a good mom or not? If it doesn't care about the calf, out the door. And then growth rate of the calves, because that's what everybody cares about. How much can I get weight racked onto that little tiny body before I sell it to get as much poundage as possible? Coming in number 7 at Gelbvieh. Got anything for those guys or
no? I mean, just a good solid cow. I mean, good beef production. And I don't know, but I would bet some of your other breeds, your beef breeds, are going to use that too, especially with a color variation like that. Good phenotype. Why wouldn't you? Docile.
Right. Well, that we're all about the personality too. Like if it's easy to handle,
right?
Why not? Coming in at number 6. What do you think this might be? Any ideas?
Oh my God. Let's go with Simmental.
Ooh, interesting choice. Okay. Nope.
My God. Yeah, I don't think of the Bos Indicus.
These guys, we talked about them. Longhorns. So popular in the South, not so popular in the North. Why? Because in the 1870s and 1880s, there were multiple cattle drives that brought these beautiful animals up to Montana, and they literally froze to death. They're just not meant for the harsh, cold winters of the North Country. So it is what it is. Like Dad has said before, Bos Indicus versus Bos Taurus. And frankly, these guys, they are of the breed that cannot do well with the cold. And so they stay south. But they are still coming in at number 6 in the United States as Texas Longhorn for beef production.
When I see a Longhorn, these are some really well filled out Longhorns. I think of that long body, but that really lean look. Almost bony at sometimes. Yes. These are all in really good shape.
They are, and I think they're also to an extent, I think these guys are being bred for the horns in
Oh
these
yeah,
particular pictures, because if you look at it, the horns they're a little ridiculous. If we were to look at a normal longhorn in our country, it's probably going to be closer to this one on the top right. Maybe this one down here in the bottom, but the rest of them, it's just long. It's ridiculous. It's craziness. But yeah, like you said, I think of a longhorn and I think, wow, small, bony, not a whole lot there. They got some horns, so they're unique, but that's pretty much it.
well, you notice that I think one of the traits that you can see is, especially on that very first one on the top and
This
about
one?
the fourth one over. Yes, look at the twist at the top of the at the end of the horn. That's a
Oh, yep.
real that's a longhorn trait where it
Okay.
starts. And you see the one below it. He's starting to get that twist to him as
Just
well.
right here. Yep.
Yeah, and so and the only thing I really know about that is a guy that raises roping steers
Mm.
and was explaining the difference between the breed that he likes to raise and lease out for guys that are in the roping versus like the longhorns. They want these. You're not going to lay a horn on the or a rope around a horn realistically on some of these that are just big and thick and long. I mean
Like
that's
this one.
yeah. I mean that's not gonna that's there's no purpose to that. So some of these other breeds are they're Bos Indicus cattle, and he's doing well with them. But I don't know what kind of maintenance he has to have on them to get them to this point where they're usable. Now, some of the thickness of those horns, I've been told is a hormone change. And
Hmm.
so there was
Interesting.
a guy, yeah, when I was a warden, there was a guy, a landowner north, that got a hold of me and he said, "Hey, we need to, I got a longhorn." And he also had camels out there, And so in
All about those thin bodies, huh?
South Central Montana, and he's got some Bactrian, couple of Bactrian camels that and,
Yeah.
uh, and, and he might have even had a dromedary too. But anyway, it's just he had some exotic stuff that he liked to play with, and he had this longhorn bull, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm trying to get this length on this bull, but I noticed that what you put up there, some of them were very long, and some of them were very thick, and some of them but both were bulls."
Uh-huh.
In both of those cases on some of the pictures you're showing there, but his theory was that you let them get like the length as a bull, they would grow length, and then if you castrated them, then they would start to get the girth, the thickness of that, and he wanted both. So this
Interesting.
this bull was, I don't know, 3 years old, something like that, probably. And so I went out. The vet gave him some tranquilizer, and I knew how to do it because I'd been schooled in use of tranquilizing bears, mountain lions, moose, that kind of stuff. And so I took our tranquilizer gun out there and we tranquilized this bull for him and put it down, and they castrated him, and I don't know whatever happened, if it was a success or not. So he was strictly for production of the size of these horns. That
Yeah.
was it. I mean, he
Very
wasn't
interesting.
looking for doing, yeah. So there is that market.
Um, so I'll give the quick spiel on the Texas Longhorn. The Texas Longhorn is the end of the product of the survival of the fittest, in quotation marks. Again, all coming out of Egg Daily. Brought by Christopher Columbus and the Spanish colonialists. The cattle breed is known for its characteristic horns, which can extend to over 1.8 meters, which is close to 6 feet, probably in standard measurement, tip to tip for bulls, and 2.1 meters tip to tip for steers and exceptional cows, which is interesting because that's closer to probably 7 feet. The Texas Longhorns are known for their diverse coloring and can be any color or mix of colors,
Yeah.
but dark and red and
Brindle.
white are the most dominant. So that's number 6, Texas Longhorns. And that rounds out our top 5 bonus beef production animals for the United States. Starting at number 5.
Simmental.
I'll do the no. I'll say it. You're close, but no. Number 5, and I'll just talk about it real quick with the spiel before we move on at 35:05 time stamp. What do you think it is? You said Simmental?
I'm just throwing that. I'm just going to stick with one until I get it right, just like I did with the Gelbvieh.
So not as popular as Black Angus. Red Angus.
There we go. I knew it
do
was got to be up there closer.
They do offer the same valuable carcass characteristics that result in increased marbling and flavor. Red Angus are also a docile cattle breed and possess good mothering traits. They are more tolerant to hot temperatures than Black Angus. Again, number 5 coming in with the Red Angus, and I will share my screen. If you guys have not seen our Instagram and Facebook before, this is what they look like. I mean, you could pull pretty much any cow out of any of these pictures, and that would be one of ours.
When you take a look at that bull up in the upper left hand again, does that not look like
bottom left too?
Or does that not look like the Gelbvieh?
It does. It does. Let me scroll here. You can still see this, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So perfect. I mean, look right here. 1, 2. That's Gelbvieh.
Look at the bull. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Those guys are almost identical.
And you got the one on the lower left that's actually got a little bit of dappling look to him.
Oh yeah, right here.
Yep. So there is some variation there, but yeah, I mean that's why we like our reds. There's one big problem with our red cattle.
They're not black.
They're not black. They haven't. They exactly right. I mean, they're the wrong color. We've talked about that before. Love that docility. I love that. Heat tolerance, breedability, the mothering. There's some of the blacks they're great too, but you know what? They can be a little bit overly motherly. so can some of ours, which is what they're supposed to do. But love our reds, but they're not black and they're not marketed as well. Therefore, we take a beating for it.
Moving on, number 4 at 37.20. Listen, man, 2 people, 1 man producing it. What's your number 4 beef producer?
Simmental.
You got it. Nailed it.
There we go.
Got it. Here it is.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm amazing.
4, we'll share the screen real quick. It's absolutely Simmental. Here's what they look like. Man, some thick bodies. They got some different color. Beautiful, but wow, they're thick. Like that's all I can say is wow, they're thick. Like you look at the front end of these things as they're looking at you, and they remind me of a hog. They are round. Holy cow.
And when I think of Simmental, you see that color on that bull on the upper left again, or the cow with the bunch of calves. Yeah, that color. That's in my mind's eye, when I think Simmental, that's the color, the darkness I think of, or that lightness, I guess. There's some variation in. They almost look milk cowish, but they
almost look to me like a light Hereford.
Right, exactly, without horns. Yeah. Look at the little guys down in the lower right-hand corner, a bunch of little chubbies. So you got some.
These guys,
some weaned,
they could be off of our place.
Well, and those are probably little. Those are yearling bulls. Look like to me, by the shape of their face and their eyes, their mouth,
the curliness of their hair, the
masculinity
in their face.
They're probably that's sale day for somebody who's seed stock producer.
I was gonna say, what do you think they're doing? Selling virgin bulls right there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, those are yearling bulls. Yes. Absolutely.
They're good looking. What? How often have you seen a black Simmental? I'm seeing 3 right now with a dark brown.
The darker, you can see that color change, but I haven't seen that many dark ones like that here. And maybe it's because I'm not looking for them, and I think, there's a black. Could be. Yeah.
Well, it's possible that they're doing their own heterosis too, where they threw in a black Angus somewhere, and that's what they got. But
and you're smart too. I mean, we do our own with some of our registered stuff, but you know what? There comes a time when you need to throw some other traits in there for strengthening that herd up. You're gonna lose some on some, but that's what the culling process is for.
Yeah. All right. With that is Simmental coming in at, what was it, number 4? It was number 4. Next one, number 3, numero tres. What do you think it is?
Oh, it's going to be something wild that I don't know. It's not Tarentace or Murray Gray. I mean, you just don't see as many of those.
Believe it or not, I think this one and the next 2 we have talked about. We
really?
At least name dropped at one point or another throughout this this
Lay it on me.
recording.
What do we got?
Coming in, number 3, beef production in the United States is Hereford. Originating in England, Herefords became very popular in the United States for their early maturity and fattening ability. Dark red to red yellow in color with a white face. Herefords are known for their longevity and for being docile, easy calvers, good milkers, and good mothers. So with that, I will
Prone to
bring
pink
up the
eye
share
and
screen.
prolapse. No.
There's the downside to it, but that's what your Hereford looks like.
When I was-
I think of like if you were to think of a red with a white belly and red head, that's it. Or white belly and white head, that's it.
Well, and you just mentioned a little bit ago that those Simmentals look like there's a lot of Hereford in there, and
Yeah.
there may be some crossbreeding in there as well. But when I was a kid, that is what you saw. Everybody had Herefords. I mean, there was very few places that were running anything but Herefords. I mean, that's just the way it was.
What
You'll notice
changed
these
that?
are, I think partially horns, because you gotta maintain those horns.
Because you got 1 here, 2 here.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, you
looks
see
like he might have growth. I'm not sure.
at that age, he's pulled. He's not got any horn there, but
there's another one top right here. He's got some horns. But
yeah, I think our I can't see him because our faces are covering that. But
here, I'll pull it to the side again. But yeah, it's just sweeping forward a little bit. But
well, and you'll notice that second row, that bull, where those horns are starting to come in a little bit. The top one, the horns
here.
are tipping down. Yeah, see how that's starting to tip in towards his eye, towards his face? They will continue to grow at times, some of them, in that direction. They just kind of come out and curl. And so you guys would put weights on them. You'd screw a weight on the end of that horn.
Oh,
and
to redirect them.
And redirect and let them hang down further. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that because I've just seen them sawed off.
Well, and you got to be careful doing that. I have been involved with sawing off mature horns.
Too deep, and then they start bleeding.
Bleed like a stuck hog. So sometimes what you'll do is if you get too deep, then you'll cauterize it with a hot branding iron. It doesn't hurt them, but it's you got to stop that bleeding because there's some major vessels that run through there.
Well, what'll happen? What'll happen if you were to not stop that? Could they potentially bleed out and die, even though it seems so really minor?
Yeah, I think they would. I mean, there's a lot of blood volume there, and when you cut through you're better off tearing an artery than you are to cut it, because those muscles that are along it will spasm and close up sometimes. But I mean, when you've got blood doing this, pumping out, and it's even though it's a small stream, it might keep doing that for a while. So you just cauterize it just as a precaution, just to make dang sure that they're done. But I have seen those where they've been left done and they come out and they just curl right back and into the side of their face, or so close. And I've actually seen them touching, and it's like, okay, they got to get that taken care of. So it's a maintenance issue on the horns. That white face, you got cancer eye potential, you got pink eye potential.
And what's the difference between the two of them? Because you're saying white face will cause cancer eye. To me, cancer eye is something that happens from cancer. How does a white face cause cancer?
Sunlight. You got a lot of sunlight reflecting into those eyes and around that soft tissue. If you look at that, it's all very, very pink.
So it's like if someone were to go out without sunscreen for 20 years and just get hit by the sun, they get cancer. And okay
potential. Gotcha. They don't all get that, but they seem to develop that. And I mean, you see cancer eye sometimes in cattle once in a while, but you don't see it quite as often as you used to. That was something that was fairly common. And pink eye, certainly. Pink eye is, it's a bacteria. I believe it's a bacteria that it can be, taken care of with some antibiotics, that kind of, momentary type of medical issue that you can cure. Where cancer, you're not going to cure that in cattle.
Yeah. No, I mean,
the cost is worth more than what the animal's worth, to be quite blunt. I'm not known for my bluntness.
Really? Would have never thought. Coming in at number 2. We're almost there, folks. Number 2. Again, the next 2 we have name dropped at least once or twice. What do you think number 2 is?
God, I don't know. I'm out. I
Number
can't be. Number 1, I think I got it right. But
Okay.
number 2,
All right. Top 10 beef production in the United States. Coming in,
Piedmontese.
believe it or not, never made the list.
No kidding.
Number 2 is Charolais. It has been said that
yeah.
no other breed has impacted the North American beef industry so significantly as the introduction of Charolais. The Charolais came into widespread in the United States cattle industry at a time when producers were seeking larger framed, heavier cattle than the traditional British cattle breeds. Charolais are white or creamy white in color, and their hair coat is usually short in summer, but thickens and lengthens in the cold winter. So with that, we will swap over to the photos and I will share with you what they look like starting now. That is what a Charolais looks like. If you want to talk about a beautiful white bodied animal, and again, like Dad was talking about, potential cancer eye, you're looking at this bottom picture here.
Yeah. Inside the ears. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the coloring. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's that coloring that throughout the summertime they get hit with the sun rays, and it's much like we have issues with pink-skinned Palomino horses. They have that chance of sunburn or anything like that. Same thing with cattle. So yeah, Charolais, number 2 for top 10 beef production in the United States. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, a lot of Charolais were being brought into the country. You want to be careful. You don't necessarily want to put a Charolais bull on a smaller framed cow. You're going to have some calving issues. You got a big calf. They're not, and they're right. They're a larger frame. They're not a Holstein, but they're close. There's some, they grow and they start out big. So
that'd be interesting to see if we were to throw a Charolais bull onto, we're one of the few people, in fact, in our neck of the woods, we are the only people that I personally know that will hold heifers an extra year. It would be interesting to see if that would have any impact on the calving ease, because that pelvic growth has been able to develop over that extra year to produce that calf.
Well, it's still a smaller framed cow with a large calf. It would have an impact. We'd be pulling some calves.
So we're talking the number 5 with Red Angus versus the number 2 with Charolais. Bigger frame, bigger body, more muscle, putting on that smaller frame, significant muscle, but just not quite the same, and having that issue with calving ease and potentially complications or anything else that might occur during that calving process.
Yeah, they're very athletic. What I've seen, very athletic breed too. I mean, they can jump.
The Charolais are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's no bueno, because we don't like fence jumpers.
And I say that with limited experience, only with personal experience. What I've seen with some, I don't know that the entire breed is like that. It could have been just a small pocket of, I got some guys that just want to wander, and cows that just I don't want to be here. So, and cows are, and unless anybody's ever seen a cow jump, you would never bet that they are as athletic as they are.
And believe it or not, I've never seen a cow jump. I know you guys have personally witnessed one, and she went to town shortly thereafter, but I've never seen a cow jump. I've seen them push through a fence and almost like a antelope or pronghorn to those in the East. Just push through and kind of head nose dive through, but I've never seen one straight jump.
This summer we were headed to Billings from the ranch, your mom and I, and neighbor down there next to the highway had a cow out, and we're watching it, and it was starting to panic a little bit because it was a little higher speed running the fence, and everybody else was inside. They were starting to move away up into the hills, and it turned, and I said, watch. I said, she's going to jump. Sure enough, she turned and she just hauled back and cleared right over the fence. And your mom's like, oh my God. I said, yeah, occasionally you'll see that. She jumped over and then just as nice as calm, just started grazing. I was like, okay, she knew where she needed to be. She obviously had probably gotten out that way as well,
Yeah.
But she's pretty adept. It's amazing how athletic they can be.
All right, moving on. Number 1, you said Black Angus. What was your other 2? I know you said Simmental and
Gelbvieh.
Gelbvieh. Yeah. All right, we already covered those 2.
I would have said reds above those two also, but only because of some of the crossbreeding that's done. But no, I think blacks just dominate, and I don't know what the total numbers are of these breeds.
I don't either. I wish I would have had that, but
Yeah.
Now this one does have the number of registered animals, but the rest did not. But to recap, you said red or Simmental and Gelbvieh. To give everybody perspective, Gelbvieh was number 7. Red Angus, which is what we own and what we produce, is number 5, with Longhorn being in between those two. And then Simmental right below, or right above is what I should say, right above red at number 4. So it was Gelbvieh 7, red 5, Simmental 4. So that you hedging your bets, you were in the top roughly 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were absolutely right. Number 1 coming in at Black Angus is the most common breed of the beef cattle in the United States, with more than 330,000 animals registered. Now that's registered. We do not have registered animals, and we have about 100 head roughly. One reason the breed is so popular is their carcass characteristics. Wow, there's a lot of consonants and stuff today.
Words.
Yeah, which are marketed as yielding well marbled, flavorful beef. We've talked about this before multiple times. These guys have nailed it in marketing. Also, Angus cattle require little maintenance during calving season, are good mothers, and are very feed efficient. The Black Angus cattle breed came to the United States in the 19th century. If you're not familiar, that's the 1800s, and gained its footing in Kansas, of all places. So with that, I will pop this open and I will share my screen. There's a lot of clicking going on, and that is what a Black Angus looks like. It's our reds, except in black.
Only black.
And in fact, you can see in this one right here, red versus black. I mean, they're the same. They are pretty much the same animal, just different color. So number 1 coming in, top 10 beef production in the United States of America is Black Angus.
If you look at that third picture on the top, look at the highlights on that hide or on that hair.
This one right here.
Yep, that almost looks like a crossbreed with a black and a red, or black and something else. Because
I see what you're talking about. Red on the shoulders. Yeah, a little lighter.
It might be a little heterosis going on there, which is not a bad thing.
And keep in mind, people, we have the same thing where we might have an all red animal with darker highlights on the shoulders or the hips, or maybe the eyebrows, and you'll be like, oh, there might be a little heterosis going on down the genetic line, or maybe we had just a darker bull in general come in, and that's what's created it.
Well, that's happened. We've had some bulls that are all 100% 1A registered.
Yep.
Bulls. That's what we've bought, and you just get some genetic lineup that you may have a lighter or darker calf in our case somewhere. But look at that bull up there on the left. He's a specimen.
Beautiful boy right there.
He looks like ours, except ours, we want him a little bit longer than that. But look at how he stands up. Look at the bone under him.
He's still pretty long.
Blocky. He's still long. Yeah, you look at his head. I mean, he's deceptive because he's so deep and blocky. He doesn't look as long as he is. Yeah, it's still a long bull.
Even this one actually looks shorter backed, but man, perfect block, good hip, high hip.
Yeah.
He's a little lower hip up here, but high hip.
Look at how his hind end flares out. Yeah. No, there's I like the blacks too. I just prefer the docility and the heat tolerance with our reds. But
yeah, our
red Angus have got to get their poop in a group, and I don't know that can ever happen. I don't think I'll live long enough to see that.
So, and I mean that rounds out the top 10. Let me just throw this out there again. Top 10 coming in: Highlands, number 9 Limousine, number 8 Holstein, number 7 Gelbvieh, 6 Longhorn, 5 our beloved Reds, with number 4 coming in at Simmental, Hereford at number 3, Charolais at number 2, and the top beef producing breed in the United States being Black Angus. Why is it that we've talked about this, and I'm sure we will talk about more. It's much like the Packers. Hey, brought that in. Why
evil bastards?
Why is it that just the Reds and the Blacks, the only thing I like more about the Reds than I do the Blacks, really truly, is their docility. Every time I have dealt with a black, it's just been a little more aggressive, and I'm just not about it. And I know you aren't either, and I'm probably that's why I feel that way. But why
And some
is
of that's
it
all how they're handled too. I mean,
it
you could
is
take some reds and you can make them, you could wind them up to where they're
raunchy
wild.
and yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But why is it that you think, other than just the plain marketability of the red Angus and the black Angus, the two groups business wise, why is it do you think the black Angus has just figured it out? Like, what is it that's just they have made it to where you think, looking at a steak, looking at a certified Angus beef produced steak in a restaurant, a top end restaurant, you think black Angus immediately? Like, you, even me, I'll go in somewhere and I'll pay, I'll get dressed up. It'll be a special occasion. I'll go there for the steak, for the experience. And I think even walking in, having grown up around red Angus, I think black. Why is that?
That's exactly what it is. It's marketing. It's getting people to think what you want them to think. When you put a piece of paper on a machine to make a copy of it, what are you doing to it? What's it called?
So to me, my generation, it's just copying. But to many slightly older than me, and I would say legitimately, I'm a late millennial. I'm 1994. To anybody about 92, 90s and above or lower than that, in 80s, 70s, 60s, it's Xerox. I
Yes.
just Xeroxed it.
Yes, and that's a brand. And what
But
they've done
Kleenex is the same thing, I think, across
Kleenex is the same.
generations. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go
Still
get
going.
Kleenex. Yeah.
Right. So, it's a Folgers that you're sucking on right there.
It's coffee.
That's what people think. So it's about marketing. It's about
Yeah.
name recognition and being able to attach your thought process to a product. That's all it is. And they have done a fantastic job. And what does it take to do that? It takes money. They were smart enough.
It also takes just showing it, like
showing it. Yeah.
Hashknife brand, Hashknife Ranch, Hashknife channel, Hashknife Instagram, Hashknife. Like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, we do the same thing. It just at a micro level. It's the same thing at a macro level with cattle.
Right. and they had the foresight to understand and know that's like, hey, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
If we can take this and make everybody think, when they think they go into a restaurant, that they have to have some black Angus, and again, it's certified Angus. You look at those, most of those, some will say black, but for the most part, it's a black silhouette, just as you said earlier, and it implies black Angus.
And the only thing that you could do, I'm thinking from the red side, if we were to try and sell the red, it would be, we talk to restaurants and all we do is, if we paid them money to change the ink from black to red and say it's Angus certified, and when they see a red cow, they would just be like, hey, what's up with the red cow? I'm like, oh, this is, in fact, it is Angus certified. It just happens to be red Angus, not black Angus. And they'd be like, oh, great. Okay, thank you. And then they would still order it, but it would get into their minds, it's also red and it's also black. And because I would even think, oh, I see black and I see red, I'll probably order red.
Well, and the deal of it is, it's just color, because the carcass traits are almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
They're an Angus. They're still Angus breed.
One is at 5 and one is at 1.
And that is because of numbers and most popularity. They're not saying numbers, but which I'll tell you what really surprised me, this was to have as many Herefords. But we also live in a bubble.
Yeah.
We're in a spot where we don't get out very much and away. And there are some places that are.
I think Herefords are more. I think understanding Twitter, being part of the more ag Twitter community. We are closing in on an hour, so we'll have to shut this down quick. But I think knowing more, even though there's Longhorns in Texas, there's a lot of Herefords. And I did not know this in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas. Had no idea. No idea. Because again, like you said, we're in our own bubble with we're in Angus country, man. We have a couple Holsteins we've seen, but it is black and red Angus, and primarily 90% black Angus.
Yeah.
Like it's through and through Angus. So
Yeah.
to know that there's Hereford somewhere, it kind of
Well,
surprises me.
and what is it you're looking at on your carcass? Is it your ribeye?
Yep.
You know, you're scoring that carcass by the ribeye, by the size of it, and by the marbling of it. And they score when you pull a hide off that thing, you can't tell whether it's red or black.
No,
So
no.
they're
I mean,
very,
same as a
very,
human.
very, yeah, the
You
same.
want
They
to talk
got basically the same
realistically.
carcass rates. Yeah. So if you hung up a Holstein, you could probably tell the difference. You know? So and the Scottish Highlanders, I don't know that I've ever seen a carcass hanging on a Scotty, you know, so you know, there's some ignorance on my part. I just don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to a butcher.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, today was top 10. And again, I will reiterate top 10 being number 10 coming in at Highlands, number 7, or sorry, whoa, that was a quick skip. 10 Highlands, 9 Limousine, 8 Holstein, 7 Gelby, 6 Longhorn, 5 our beloved Red Angus, 4 Simmental, 3 Hereford, 2 Charlet, and number 1 producer, because they have nailed the marketing system, Black Angus, for the top 10 in the United States on beef production, and frankly, probably the production of beef in the world. That's your top 10. Anyway, that's it. That's our kind of our notes. That's where we sit. That's where we stand. We appreciate you joining us. And with that, I'll give it to Dad.
Well, you know, and there's kind of a backwards thinking or a different way of thinking about this with your blacks. If you create a market, you're going to make more of them to fill that market.
Yeah.
And the more you fill that market and the more you talk about that market, the more people will buy specifically for that or feel good about it. So it's about, I mean, the Black Angus folks have absolutely, I mean, I've said it again, the word is brilliant about doing what they're doing. So, but remember, folks, eat beef. We're making more of it every day for you. So, yeah, we appreciate all of you that are watching. And until we can pay you properly, we'll thank you till you're better paid.